Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is An Chung-young. I am the moderator for this trade session. Well, I'm really delighted to have this session with distinguished panel members. At the outset, I would like to tell you that Dr. Rajiv Kumar was invited to serve as panel member. He is very well-known, distinguished trade economist in India, but 3 days ago he was appointed as the head of the Indian Business Association, and so he has to swear in as a new head of the institute. As a result, he was not able to attend. Nevertheless, we have truly a distinguished panel members so that we can have more time to discuss the issue, and perhaps our panel members can crossfire each other on the views on specific issues. Well, I have already circulated the major topics and the issues which we need to discuss under the theme of this session. Let me summarize briefly. We would like to touch upon the global imbalance issues, especially global trade imbalance issue. And then as means of resolving the global trade imbalance issues, the trade imbalance issues boils down the trade imbalance between United States and China. And so Chinese yuan, to what extent, how soon, and needs to be appreciated. So this is an ongoing policy debate between U.S. and China. So we would like to hear on the what we call this exchange rate, the adjustment, especially on yuan, and so we want to focus on this. And then we'll touch upon China is planning to internationalize Chinese currency yuan, and we would like to cover some policy implication on this. And then we would like to move on a multilateral free trade the agreement, namely Doha Development Round, where we are standing at this point, and what are major the issues to stumble the progress of Doha negotiation, and then we'll touch on the free trade, the agreement which are going on globally, and the number of free trade increasing very rapidly. So this is a regionalism is a substitute for a multilateralism, such as Doha Development Round. And then we want to focus on the regional free trade agreement going on in East Asia as well as Northeast Asia, and also the U.S. views on this ongoing regional initiative in Northeast Asia, namely Chinese have been proposing the idea of having the free trade agreement with the Korea and Japan together. But the U.S. is also now pushing the Trans-Pacific, the partnership, agreement and so on. And then Korea-U.S. FTA is awaiting for final the ratification on the part of the U.S. Congress as well as Korean National Assembly. So these are the key issues we want to focus on. And so at the first round, I would like to concentrate on the global trade imbalance, and then the exchange rate, the realignment of the Chinese yuan, and the yuan internalization. Okay. Putting the three subtopics, and I would like to ask our panel members perhaps spend 5 minutes, so you may not repeat your other the panelists already mentioned that maybe I would like to make the whole session rather provocative and this attacking each other. So this is a ground rule, and then after we through this imbalance and exchange rate issue, then we're going to move on the second set of these issues I just mentioned. So with this remark, I would like to start with the Amy Jackson. Since you have already have all the bio data, and I don't want to repeat in detail, but she is now president of the American Chamber of Commerce, and most importantly, she served as the deputy assistant at the U.S. Trade Representative for Korea. So she has a lot to say on the East Asian and those East Asian Free Trade Agreement, especially Korea-U.S. FTA. So, Amy, would you like to correct the first on these two issues? Okay, 5 minutes.
Okay. Yes, I will. I'll note that I am an economist, perhaps by training, but not by nature. I was a government official, but even when I was at the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, it was beaten into us that only the Treasury Department can talk about currency issues. So I still have some barriers for talking about that. But, in looking at this question, I'll say a few things. My expertise is not on China, nor is it on currency rates. So I'm sort of looking at it as a very interested outsider who's also involved in East Asia trade. And there's a lot of rhetoric out there. As the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Korea, myself and several of my board members go back to Washington at least every year, if not a couple times a year, to do what we call a door knock, which means we go to senior officials in the administration and within the U.S. Congress to talk about issues of concern. And although I lived in Washington for 20 years, now I've lived in Asia for a year and a half. When I go back, it is quite striking at how different the mood is in Washington compared to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. And I think in any policy issue, including and especially perhaps the currency issue, we have to be careful to take everything that comes out of, or many things that come out of Washington with a grain of salt. There is a lot of rhetoric. President Obama has been very specific that he thinks the Chinese currency issue is looking at puts U.S. industry at, quote, a huge disadvantage and needs to be one of his top priority issues. But I think the fact that the Treasury Department has not cited China as a currency manipulator for several years is telling in the direction the Obama administration truly wants to go. I also think, every government has a number of policy tools at its disposal. Clearly the Obama administration is engaging in discussions with China in many forums. They have the SED, the bilateral SED and JCCT dialogues going on, but also haven't been shy about using the G20 process, including at the finance ministers meeting last fall, and other forum to talk about this issue and try to promote some of the U.S. views. But it doesn't seem to me, and again, as somewhat of an outsider on this particular policy question, that something precipitous or dramatic will happen. Looking at it also from an American business person, my counterparts in Beijing, so the American Chamber of Commerce in Beijing, does annual surveys of its members. And I think that's very telling in terms of where the U.S. will or should go on this question. And just to give you a couple of the results from the most recent survey, 83% of American companies invested in China say they want to increase investment. 85, and this is, their view from 2010, at the end of 2010. 85% of American companies operating in China reported an increase in revenue between a small amount to a very large amount, about half and half, in 2010. That was 29 percentage points higher than in 2009. So clearly there's a lot of good things going on for American companies in the Chinese market, and that will and should have a huge effect on what policies the Obama administration adopts and where we go on the currency issue in the future.
Thank you very much. And hey, Professor Wang Yong, Amy Jackson said it's a lot of the rhetorics, involved from Washington community, but the Treasury Secretary, Dick Geithner, he mentioned that he kept demanding Chinese yuan should be revalued more quickly and to a greater extent. And so how would you like to respond? I think you should be quite relieved when Amy Jackson said, all right, this is a political rhetoric, so actions are quite different. So tell me, it's not going to lead to currency war?
Thank you, Chairman. Dr. An, I think I'm very happy to have this chance to express my personal observations about these very important issues, especially the U.S.-China economic relations. I think I'm in the similar tune with Amy Jackson. I'm very happy about that. I think one reason for this optimistic, especially from the perspective of business community, because we are in Asia rather than in Washington, D.C. Okay, I'm talking about the political factors and its impact on the public policy process. I want to make several points on this. Okay, generally, I'm cautiously optimistic about China-U.S. economic trade relations. That both sides will continue to have frictions and tensions. Okay, that might be true. On the how to deal with issues in the disputes like trade imbalance, IMB, exchange rate, market access, and others. But we do have much more common interests than the differences and conflicts. I think the reasons are very simple. Number one, the two countries are major trading partners to each other. And the U.S. has increased its export to China much more than to any other countries since China's WTO accession. China's domestic market is booming, and the U.S. can't leave this market to other countries. Okay, Jersey, Amy talked the data of the survey, so I think that is very important. A second point I would like to point out that China and U.S. has formed a special relations, claimed as so-called the balance of financial terror. Okay, which concept is coined by the former U.S. Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers. Okay, by purchasing U.S. government bonds or T-bills, China has become the largest creditor to the U.S. government. So, Chinese investment in this part actually strengthens greatly the U.S. economy. A good economy of U.S., on the other hand, also helps China's exports and Chinese economy as well. Okay, that is the part, very important part of the common interests, common stakes. Thirdly, the exchange rate is not the key to the U.S. economic problem. Okay, now we have seen that Chinese RMB exchange rate has increased about 30% since 2005. And it seems not yet to help the U.S. reduce its trade deficit much. Okay, the demand of appreciation serves domestic politics interests to the scapegoat someone else for the poor performance of the U.S. So the problem, obviously, in my understanding, lies in the complicated domestic politics of the U.S. Fourthly, improvement of the U.S.-China relations and the strengthening strategic and political confidence will help the both sides avoid more and unnecessary economic and trade conflicts. We see the relationship has been improved since the early this year. Yes, so I think that is the major observations I would like to present to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor Wang Yong. Actually, he is a professor of economics at Beijing University. After hearing, Amy Jackson and Professor Wang Yong, it seems to me the China and the U.S. are really on the same boat. You like each other. Well, I'm really surprised. How come
We should be government officials again.
How come Financial Times, all the Wall Street Journal, all the time carry on the currency wars, so forth. Okay, Professor Jung In-kyo, who is Professor of Economics at the Inha University. Do you believe, the views from the U.S. and the China? I think this global imbalance issue is still going on, and there is no sign of mitigating, the ongoing global imbalance. The world economy cannot afford to prolong the global imbalance issues. So we should do something on this. So what is your view on this?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to extend my special gratitude to the organizer of this conference for having me as one of the panelists, especially this session. I'm not an expert on exchange rate, but having heard points by Amy Jackson and Professor Wang, I think both countries are. They are in the same boat. I would like to mention two recent happening. Number one is a couple of weeks ago, U.S. and China had the third strategic economic dialogue. So before that, the authorities of U.S. strongly argued, even the member of the Congress, they're gonna demand the adjustment of the yuan to China, but actually they didn't talk much. According to their statement, the remarks on the yuan was less than last year's report. So that's one of important symbolic happening. The second one is the special some preparation committee for G20 meeting agreed the second level approach, which exclude the exchange rate for the evaluation index of the indicative guideline. So I had a chance to think about why did. So that's another reflection of U.S. and China on the exchange rate issue. If both countries didn't have or they do not share the same line of thinking, actually the second approach couldn't be agreed upon. So politically, they strongly argue the adjustment of exchange rate, but actually, they realize they are in the same boat. So even if China appreciate the yuan, then U.S. might be hurt. Lastly, I would like to mention an article carried on the Economist Journal, weekly journal, that's May 23rd. According to the magazine, U.S. manufacturers now move back to U.S. So in the past, major manufacturers built large production facilities, especially in China. Now, without change of any exchange rate, now they realize the price or cost advantage in China reduced substantially. So they think it's better to produce in U.S. So that's another background for U.S. and China share the same line of thinking regarding exchange rate. Thank you.
Well, after hearing the three panelists' view, it seems to me the global imbalance is some sort of the self-correcting mechanism. But I don't quite believe in that. How come the Deputy Minister Choi Seok-young, we had the G20 finance ministers meeting in Washington, D.C., and as far as I know, they failed to come up with a specific measurement of, global trade imbalance issues. If this is not so serious, how come they failed to agree upon a specific, measurement unit? And do you think this is ongoing? The global imbalance is not going to be a serious problem, and it's going to be self-corrected, even a current renminbi exchange rate?
Yeah, Dr. An, it's quite difficult questions. You are just posing penetrating questions for all the panelists, and I share broadly the views expressed by my previous speakers. There is a global imbalance, and which may also cause a trade imbalance between the two big powers, the economic powers between China and United States. As mentioned previously, there are two mechanisms which are involved in the correcting these imbalances. Number one is a multilateral track through the G20 format, and the other one is a bilateral cooperation between China and United States. G20 finance ministers meeting did carry out a study on global imbalance indicative guidelines, which was not achieved last month, but they agreed to continue to investigate this matter. And the outcome of in-depth analysis would come out sometime end of this year. And what would be the prospect of these issues? According to our past track actual experience on the impact of the protectionist trends, but we found that the WTO system worked out. And this trade issue is not kind of the zero-sum game. It's just we found that it's a positive-sum game. And the countries already realized that if they would adopt kind of beggar-die labor policy just for their egoistic interest, would not be sustainable in the long run. I think the two countries